now in terms of those strong winds, not to mention the very, very heavy rain. But what this thing has done in terms of wave action is huge. It's starting to produce very large swells that could even double in size, believe it or not, before we actually see them come into the northern Bahamas, especially if the storm strengthens. And there's such a broad wind field over this, these waves are already being set out well ahead of the storm. So the point is they will arrive in the outer banks by tomorrow afternoon. High surf, certainly a very large rip current risk coming up for the outer banks starting tomorrow, and then everybody in the East Coast pretty much joins in as the waves will precede the hurricane. So here we go, 100 miles an hour possible as we work our way through tomorrow morning, and then 110, then 120. So strengthening potential is still very much here. Some of the discussions today talking about a little bit more wind shear evident today, and that may keep it at bay. So we may not have a Cat 4 by tomorrow, but we may have one by Thursday. The potential is here certainly for more strengthening, and that has not gone down certainly with the Hurricane Center advisory. So the potential for the Bahamas is still very much alive. Extensive devastation with wind damage, destructive storm surge. Now remember, we're going to have 10 to 15 feet in terms of storm surge. Then you're going to add some of those waves on top of that. They won't be 40 feet. They may not even be 20 feet as they come across some of these islands, but they will be big enough to batter the coastline and cause extensive erosion. So keep that in mind. The Bahamas very much not out of the woods from Cat Island all the way through Great Abaco, which you can see through Thursday night, really Friday morning. Those will be the main impacts there for the Bahamas. Then as we go into Friday night, all eyes from the Outer Banks onto the northeast will be on this thing. Because what's it doing now? Is it a 125-mile-an-hour hurricane, or is it a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane or an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane? That will determine on Saturday the type of impact we'll have for the Outer Banks. Will it be devastating, catastrophic, or will it be major, which we certainly think it will? But remember, the storm will be expanding in size at this point, so as the models start to pick up on the steering, very much in consensus today, we're starting to see this come into play for the Northeast, the I-95 corridor, and that is the most alarming track for the Northeast, because not only does it bring water into the coastline, but it also potentially brings the wind and the heavy rain right up there with it. Now, this is one of the models today, actually what we call the 18Z, the 2 o'clock model, going from about 7 o'clock tonight onward. And here you can see the storm center right in through here being depicted by these closed isobars. We go on in time. Here we go through Thursday, Friday, on into Saturday. That's going pretty fast. It almost made me dizzy. But either way, it came right up just to the east of New York City and right up through the Connecticut Valley of New England with, again, a strengthened system, a strong Category 1 storm as it is forecast to do. So everybody needs to be preparing for this all the way up into the Northeast. If you go back and look at Hurricane Bob, certainly back in 1992, you have to think, wow, that's a long time ago. Absolutely, almost 20 years. So a generation, Vivian, has not seen a storm with this kind of potential. Hopefully, something will change. To go out to sea, we can, I don't know, but right now, the potential is there, and it's our job to alert everybody about that. Back to you.
Absolutely right, Jim, and that's exactly what we're doing. As we look at the forecast for the weekend, notice now, South Carolina, North Carolina, into Maryland, we're talking about the impacts from Irene. So this weekend, very, very important. You've got to keep it tuned to the Weather Channel as we track Irene up the coast here. Even on Sunday, look at here, locally heavy rains. We're talking high winds, flooding, power outages are possible for millions of people in the Northeast from Irene and all of its impacts to the coastal areas. So you please tune to the Weather Channel for the next several days as we get closer and closer to the weekend, because Irene will be getting closer and closer to the mid-Atlantic coast and to New England. Of course, it'll keep the temperatures down, but all the other impacts will be just too overwhelming. But we'll keep you updated. Nick?
Well, thanks, Viv, and thank you for watching Dave Planet. The Weather Center team's up next with continuing coverage of Irene.
Have a